Hey guys, new video for Path of Exile. So it is now Friday, so day 5 of the league, and we did get the Mageblood belt today. Just bought it and got all the flasks and everything set up and did some test runs in Simulacrum, and things have been going pretty good. So I think in this video we're going to talk about the acquiring the Mageblood belt. First of all, how we did it, and then we're going to go over the build, like how we're going to adjust the build on the Doriani's prototype. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do after Doriani's prototype. And I'll show you the POB basically for the, I guess, non-Doriani's build, like the dual wield build that we're going to be building after this. All right, so first of all, about the Mageblood. So most of it is pretty much like all Simulacrum. This league, Scarabs sold really well. Like, I farmed 2 days and sold about, I think over like 30 divines of Scarabs just from like that 2 days. Because I could actually sell my whole Scarab tab at like 110% value. Usually it's like 100% early on or like 80% for a full tab, or 90%, right? So able to sell Scarabs for quite a lot more. Fossils too. Fossils were selling really good in bulk. The downside though is that the items that are usually expensive from Simulacrum, like say a 3 passive voices or the unnatural instinct, or no, not the unnatural instinct, the split personalities, these are just like so cheap, right? I remember one league they were like 25 div for some of them, like the strength stacking one, but this league they're really cheap. So overall, the profits from Simulacrum have not been very good. Okay, so what do we do aside from that? So I'd say in total about about half. So the Mageblood I bought was 230 div. About half of that was from, or maybe like 90 div of that is from Simulacrum. Just from like the bulk sales, and then, well, actually it would have been a bit more because I do have 2 of these voices, 3 passive. And if I did include these in the price, like it would have been at least like maybe 70%, 60 or 70% of the total cost for the Mageblood was from purely just from Simulacrum profits. I wasn't actually gonna get the Mageblood till probably Saturday-ish, but one of my friends, Mr. Royal, he actually just gave me 2 apothecary cards because he did some like big gamba and made tons of House of Mirrors or whatever, I think. So anyways, big shout out to Mr. Royal. Really appreciate it. So we did get the Mageblood a lot earlier than I expected. So if we hadn't used the 2 cards he gave me, it would have been like, I think in total, 70% profit from Simulacrum. And you can see here that I'm like crafting these on these new bases, and like these sell were pretty good. Like I made a pretty crazy one here. Might actually use this, but just crafting these with like the essences you get from Simulacrum, like the loathing essences. I did buy a little bit of them. Like I probably spent like in total about 7 divines worth of essences, and then like buying a few exalts, buying a few of these things. And I've probably made like 50 div just crafting these, right? So that's like a little bit of the profit. And then aside from that, just like selling things like these timeless jewels. I tried crafting some Watcher's Eyes, but I didn't really have enough currency to actually do it on a large enough scale, so that didn't really work out. And then so Simulacrum, crafting these things. I didn't do any temples. Well, I did one for like a Dorian's prototype, but that didn't really work out either. And I didn't really want to do that anyways, so I just mainly just farmed a bunch of Simulacrum. Gem leveling, not really that good either, because it's a little bit harder to do. You don't really get as much experience per Simulacrum, so it takes a bit longer. But yeah, so like what, 1/3 crafting and then 2/3 Simulacrum profit is pretty good actually, right? A lot of you guys ask, well, what do you do when you swap over to Mageblood? So we're just gonna go over it here. But basically you just put the Mageblood on and you equip your flasks. Right now, like the only 2 mandatory suffixes are going to be the increased armor and evasion, and then you can use whatever you want here. So right now I'm using the reduced effect of curses. So with these Mageblood flasks, you get 95% increased effect. So you only actually need to 55% increased, like on the curse effect. Or if you get stunned, chance to avoid being stunned, you only need 55%, and that'll make you immune. Well, it'll go over 100, right? So I also decided to get the freeze and chill. So I'm immune to freeze and chill now, and immune to curses. Now this is kind of drawback or downside because In Simulacrum, there actually is like a debuff that has reduced flask effect. So if I get 10 stacks of that, then I might be able to be frozen. But I think I'm like killing everything fast enough that that's probably never going to happen. Or if it does, I can always swap back Pantheons to Brine King. But right now I decided to try out Lunaris for a little bit. So that's basically it. And like if you want, you can do this and start moving like at a decent pace, right? So if you ever go into a map, you can just put a Quicksilver on and do that. All right, and we didn't go over this in the last video, but I'm now using a tincture. You can see here, these things are pretty cool because you can see this one we're using here is it gains 4 rage on melee hit. It's actually only 3 rage, but because we have the 35% increased effect, it goes up to 4. And you can see it has like, 39% increased attack speed, which is pretty crazy. And with the amount of leech we have, we're able to actually sustain. I've had like 40 stacks of mana burn when there was like a lot of mobs and I was leeching a lot. But on single target, it's like up for like 6 seconds. But the good thing is with the 4 rage on melee hit, it's about 8 rage per second. So you get to 30 rage like right away, like really, really fast. So this is probably like the best way to just quickly get to your rage or 30 rage cap. Before I was using this one little node here, gain 1 rage on melee hit, and that's okay, right, in Simulacrum at least. But I think like if you're doing maps, you're doing Voldos, maybe you need the rage just like right away, and then this tincture is gonna kind of do that. As for the mana burn, you can easily sustain it with leech, and it actually doesn't even really feel that clunky. Like every now and then you get too many stacks of the mana burn, your lightning strike will kind of, you won't have enough mana to cast it. I have noticed that a little bit a few times, but overall not bad, I think, right? In exchange for getting like basically free rage, attack speed, it's definitely worth it. All right, so I did add a Mageblood swap POB. Basically, I mean, Mageblood swap, all you do is put on the belt and the flasks, right? But what I think I will end up doing is I will make a few more upgrades to the build because, and some of the items we're going to use will end up using on the next, well, I'll end up using on the next version anyways with the 2 swords. And it's going to be 2 Enlightens. These are only level 3 Enlightens, right? So you don't really need to get level 4s. And then we're also going to get another Thread of Hope. And that's going to go down here, and we're moving over to the right hand side. Basically, in order to run haste, you need the 3 Enlightens, or the 2 Enlightens, and then we have to drop our precision to free up some mana. So we're going for the precise technique, which means you are going to need a resolute technique sword. And we get that, and then basically we can grab this reservation wheel here, which is quite big. We get access to leech 2 over here, and then we can grab the iron reflexes with a large Thread of Hope. We can also get the block for endurance charge on block, and then we can also pick up frenzies from the Mark Mastery. So overall, very nice. Allows you to run haste and wrath at the same time, and it's going to speed up the Simulacrum farm, right? So I'm actually able to clear them now in under 15 minutes per Simulacrum with the Mageblood. Before it was like 17 to 20 minutes. And right now I'm not running Wrath. I'm actually just only running the haste aura, because it's just a lot faster, like moving around. But when I have both Wrath and haste active, then probably from 15 minutes the clear time could easily go to like 14 minutes. So you're gonna be doing the Simulacrums really, really fast in this setup, and I think it's gonna speed up the farm quite a bit. Okay, so aside from that, just added a few gems. Let's just see. It's like, yeah, I added clarity. You might not need this because we do have leech, but this does give you a little bit of attack speed too. So thought might as well we have some extra mana. So it's like a level 1 clarity. You could put like faster attacks or something like that if you want. Or if you have mana problems, you can put Molten Shell here and then get inspiration on your Sniper's Mark. So that is the main changes that are going to happen here. And then let's go over the next version of the build. All right, so this is the POB for the Regen build. Basically like the build in Affliction, like we were playing in Affliction with like the Scion build with 2 swords with like tons of ES regen. This is the, Settlers version, which is pretty much going to be almost exactly the same. Max hit wise and defense wise, pretty much the same. Maybe a little bit lower on the top end. But still very, very good. And DPS wise, at the very top end, probably like around 1 billion DPS or more than 1 billion. But I mean, in Affliction we had 2 billion, so I guess it is less damage than Affliction, but I think every build does less damage than Affliction, so there's that. But let's go over this real quick. I'm not gonna cover everything here because well, I think I'll be making a video about this once I actually swap over to it. But a lot of you guys are asking about the build, and so I thought we'd just make a quick overview for anyone who wants to get started, because I'm probably not going to play this for at least another week plus, because I'll be farming Simulacrum. Still, I got to get the voices and all that kind of stuff. So for anyone who wants to try this early, this is kind of the build. We'll do a quick overview. So right now I have it configured for Lightning Strike. You can use Molten Strike as well, pretty much. It doesn't really matter. Like you can see, damage is actually quite a lot lower than the Doriani's prototype, of course, but defenses are quite a lot better, and you don't have to worry about lightning degen, so very nice. So let's take a look at some of the stats real quick. First of all, let's take a look at the max hit numbers. Now this is kind of inflated, first of all. There's a couple of things we have to talk about. So Defiance Banner. So we're using Defiance Banner because this is just amazing. Let's just see what it does. If we turn this off, you can see our max hit drops down quite a bit, and that's because Defiance Banner is giving us spell suppression, 100% spell suppression. It's also giving us quite a lot of ES regen. So let's take a look here. Quite a lot of ES regen. So why aren't we using a War Cry? There's Seismic Cry you can use that's going to give you more damage, but War Cries are just so clunky to use. And Defiance Banner, actually the banners are really nice because they're instant. It's a huge AoE and it's pretty fast to charge up. So basically you're going to use this like a second Molten Shell, and it's scaled with your aura effect too. So the reason this is actually giving so much ES regen is because of the Guardian Ascendancy, because it attaches like a secondary effect to your auras, where it's like you get 3% increased recovery rate of life, mana, energy shield, and that also gets scaled with the individual auras aura effect. So if we take a look at our energy shield recovery, you can see quite a lot of increased aura effect at the very bottom. There's like a whole bunch of 8% increase, and then there's one big 52%. I believe that is the Defiance Banner. Yeah, so that Defiance Banner, just a fully charged Defiance Banner, just gives you an insane amount of increased recovery rate, because the banner itself has like more aura effect on it. So it just kind of, each one of these increased aura, increased recovery rate that's attached to each one of your auras scales with like per aura increases. So if I had like Grace has 20% increased aura effect, then instead of being an 8% increase on the Grace aura, it'd be like a 10% or a 9%. Right, so you can, it's not just like your global aura effect level, it's like individual increases also affect it. So that's why the 10% more aura effect per Valor, it ends up being I think it's like what, 50 or 500% more or 510% more aura effect, because we have 50 Valor. Right, and getting to 50 Valor is not very hard. I mean, you're not going to get it right away, but pretty easy to do. I mean, I think like even at like 37% or 35% or even less maybe. So if you get up to 33 Valor, then you're going to get your suppression cap with this. So pretty easy. You don't even need a full banner, right? So that's why banners are pretty cool, and why we're using it in this build. So that's kind of why our EHP was so high. Now let's take a look here, and if you check out my build from Affliction for the budget, kind of build like the very first version of this build, the defense stats are identical pretty much. I think this build even has a bit more max hit than that build did. Let's see what it looks like without Molten Shell. About 79, almost 80k max hit without Molten Shell, and I think in Affliction League it was like 75k. So very nice overall. That's because we also are using endurance charges, right? Without endurance charges, 63k, that's also very big. I mean, pretty high, right? We're getting our endurance charges from the Juggernaut Ascendancy. There's a couple ways to do this. I think Juggernaut is the best, well, the best cheap way to do it. Well, first of all, the Forbidden Flame jewels for this are really cheap. They're like 20 chaos. So, I mean, that might change in the future. So you can get the Forbidden Flame for Juggernaut and get our endurance charges. So whenever we get hit, we just start generating endurance charges. Or you can actually just run a Enduring Composure over here. That's another solution. So either one of those will work. So it's pretty easy to get your endurance charges I think. Okay, so energy shield. Let's talk about how we scale the defenses. So in 3.25, the way to get tanky is you get endurance charges and you get a lot of energy shield. That is the main way we're going to be getting a lot of our max hit. So getting energy shield, very, very important. A lot of the items, sample items I've added they're not all max rolled. A lot of them I've added they're like tier 2 rolls. So you could get even higher, like 7k ES probably, but basically, name of the game, get energy shield. Alright, so that's sort of the idea. If you don't have a Mageblood, it's going to be very hard to cap your resistances, so keep that in mind. You can use the Tides of Time belt or the Magnate, whichever belt you want. Both of them are going to be good. All's Uprising, just pick any of your 50% auras and get that. Rings, Moonstone rings for more energy shield, or Ruby rings for more fire res, or even just, 2 stone rings if you need a resistance. Gloves, all ES base items basically. So for the gloves, one thing I'm trying out with Lightning Strike is if we get our Pierce over here, 2 Pierce, maybe that's not enough. I might change this just back to normal, but it allows you to run Inspiration basically just to reduce the mana cost. But I'm not really sure how good that'll be in the end. We do have a lot of leech, 500 leech, decent amount of mana regen, but without inspiration, this is like 100 mana cost per second. So that's kind of something I guess you don't really know until you actually go and play the build. So I guess once I do swap over to this, I'll make some updates to it, but for now we're just going to leave it like this. So this is basically the idea of the build. Yeah, like I said, not going in too much detail here. Once I do the actual build guide, we'll go into that a bit more. Alright, so I'll have this posted in the Armor Sector Compendium you guys can go check out. But yeah, that'll be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.